Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Soul Whispers, Coming Home to You. This is episode 3, The Voice That Went Quiet, and How You Find It Again. Let's take one breath right now, in through your nose, and exhale and just let yourself arrive, wherever this week has brought you, however full or heavy or surprising it may have been. You are here now, and that is enough. My name is Susan. I'm a certified somatic trauma-informed coach, EFT practitioner, Reiki master, hypnotherapist, and you'll find my full list of credentials in the show notes below. But more than any certificate on my wall, I am someone who spent nearly 40 years finding her own way back to herself. I know what it is to be so far from who you are that you've forgotten you were ever anyone else. And I also know what it feels like to take that first terrifying step. I don't guide you from a place of theory. I guide you from a place of having walked this road and found that it leads somewhere beautiful. In episode 1, we planted a seed. In episode 2, we tended to it. Through the doubt, through the disorientation of early freedom, through the science of why the quiet feels so foreign to those of us who were conditioned to brace for the next storm. Today, we go deeper into that seed, because one of the things that gets buried first, one of the earliest casualties of a life lived walking on eggshells, is the voice. Not the speaking voice, but the deeper one. The one that knows what you need. The one that says, this doesn't feel right. The one that tried to tell you something was wrong years before your mind was ready to hear it. The one that over time you learn to silence so completely that you may have forgotten it was even there. And today, we begin to find it again. I want to tell you about the eggshells. Not the metaphorical ones, though those too, but the actual physical, visceral experience of moving through your own home as though the floor might give way at any moment, of reading the atmosphere of a room before you entered it, of scanning his face before you said a word. Not consciously, not deliberately, but automatically. The way you breathe, the way your heart beats. Because your nervous system has learned, with extraordinary precision, that the wrong word at the wrong moment has consequences. His rage was not always loud. Sometimes it was very quiet. A particular stillness, a shift in the energy of the room, a look that said everything without a single word. And in some ways, that quiet rage was the more powerful teacher, because it was unpredictable. You could not know when it was coming. You could only be ready, always scanning, always adjusting. I learned to make myself smaller by degrees, to have fewer options, to agree more easily, to let things go that I should have named, to smile through things that deserved a very different response. Not because I was weak, I want you to hear this, but because smiling kept the peace. Agreeing kept the atmosphere from changing. Going quiet kept the storm from arriving. And the thing about walking on eggshells for years, for decades, is that eventually you stop noticing you're even doing it. The hypervigilance becomes invisible because it becomes you. The constant management of yourself. The constant reading of the room. The constant editing of what you were about to say before it left your mouth. It stops feeling like something you are doing and starts feeling like something you simply are. The rage trained the silence, not all at once, but over years, one carefully observed consequence at a time, until going quiet was no longer a choice. It was a reflex. I don't even know exactly when it happened. The moment my voice went quiet, it was dramatic. There was no single morning I woke up and decided to stop speaking my truth. It was slower than that, more incremental, more invisible. It happened the first time I said something honest and watched his face shift. The first time I expressed an opinion and I felt the atmosphere of the room change. The first time I tried to name what I was feeling and was met with such bewilderment, such dismissal, such a rearrangement of the facts that I began to wonder if what I'd felt was even real. That is what walking on eggshells does to the voice. It doesn't silence it all at once. It teaches the voice through repetition, through consequence, through the survival instinct that runs beneath every conscious decision we make, that speaking is dangerous, that truth costs something, that the safest version of yourself is the quiet one. And so the voice goes underground. It doesn't disappear. I want you to hear that. It goes underground. It finds other ways to communicate. It speaks through the body, through the tightening in the chest before a conversation, the stomach drop. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. When the exhaustion that arrives from the constant work of managing yourself into smallness. It speaks through dreams, through the tears that come in the car for reasons you can't explain, through the whisper you keep almost hearing in the in-between moments of your day. That whisper, that is your voice. It never actually left. It just learned to speak very quietly in the space where it felt safe. When I finally left, when I stepped out of that life and into the vast, terrifying unknown of being on my own, one of the most disorienting things was discovering how long it took to begin speaking again. Not just to other people, but to myself, to the part of me that had been waiting so patiently for so long for me to finally say, I hear you. Tell me what you need. Learning to hear my own voice again was one of the bravest things I ever did. And it began not with speaking, but with the willingness to listen. Now let's talk about the Aries season. We are fully in Aries season right now. The Sun, Mercury, Saturn, Venus, and Neptune all moving through this bold, initiating, identity-driven fire sign. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, the spark before the flame, the moment when the universe says, now, begin. Aries carries the energy of the authentic self, not the self that was shaped by fear or approval seeking or years of making yourself smaller, but the self beneath all of that, the one with opinions and desires and a voice that knows exactly what it wants to say. This is not a coincidence that episode 3, the episode about the voice, arrives in the heart of Aries season. The cosmos is doing what it always does, meeting you exactly where your healing needs to go. Now, Venus, the planet of love, worth, and what we value, is currently moving through Aries. And Venus in Aries is not a gentle, accommodating love. It's a self-possessed love, a love that says, I know what I deserve. I am not willing to disappear for the sake of someone else's comfort. For those of us who learn to make ourselves invisible in relationships, who perfected the art of being whatever the room needed us to be, Venus in Aries is a direct transmission. It whispers, you are allowed to want things. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to love yourself with the same fierce loyalty you gave to someone who didn't always deserve it. Venus in Aries says, real love does not ask you to disappear. it asks you to arrive fully, honestly, as yourself. In 3 days, on Wednesday, April 1st, the full moon rises in Libra. And this full moon is speaking directly to everything we're exploring today. Libra is the sign of relationships, balance, and harmony. And most importantly for our work today, the sign of the other. Libra is always asking, how do I relate? How do I connect? How do I find balance between myself and the people I love? The shadow side of Libra, the wound that so many of us carry, is the tendency to find that balance by removing yourself from the equation entirely, to keep the peace at any cost, to be so focused on what the other person needs that you stop being able to feel what you need, to become, in the most literal sense, selfless. The full moon sits opposite the sun in Aries, and that opposition is the cosmic invitation of this week. Aries says, who are you? And Libra asks, who have you been in relation to others? The tension between them is asking you to hold both, to find the place where you can be in relationship and remain yourself, where you can love and keep your voice, where you can belong and not disappear. The full moon is the first significant lunation since our series began. It is illuminating everything that's been hidden in your relationships, in the patterns you carry, in the places where you learned that love required your silence. This Libra full moon is asking you one question. Where have you been so focused on balance that you forgot to include yourself in the equation? Now, Mercury, the planet of communication, is now direct in moving through Aries. This is a significant shift from the last few weeks, when Mercury was retrograde and inward, asking us to listen rather than speak. Now it moves forward in the sign of bold expression of the self and courageous truth-telling. This is your cosmic permission slip to begin using your voice again. Not all at once, not to anyone who hasn't earned it, but to yourself first. In the quiet of a journal, in this space, in the moment between a question and the answer you've been trained to give instead of the one that's true. Now we remain in the energy of the universal 1 year for 2026, which is identity, new beginnings, the courage to step forward as yourself. And as we step into April, the 4th month of the year combined with the universal year 1, then we move into a month of 5. And the energy of 5 is the energy of change and freedom and breaking free from what has kept you contained. It is the energy of the voice that has been silent, deciding it is finally time to speak up. A voice reclaimed in the energy of 1 and 5 is not a fleeting thing. The 1 of the universal year says, this is who I am. And the 5 of the month says, and I will no longer be contained by what tried to silence me. Together, they are one of the most powerful numerological combinations for reclaiming yourself. Begin here, begin now, in this month, in this year, with the cosmos having your back. I want to start by telling you something that I think you need to hear before anything else. Your silence was not weakness. Your silence was not cowardice. Your silence was not a character flaw or a moral failing or evidence that you somehow allowed something that you should have stopped. Your silence was survival, and it was extraordinarily intelligent. The nervous system, your body's ancient, unfailing, loyal protection system, does not make mistakes about this. When it learned that speaking your truth led to rage or coldness or a rearrangement of reality that left you more confused than before, it did the only logical thing. It taught you to stop. Not because you were weak, because you were trying to live. This is called the Fawn response, one of the 4 survival responses alongside fight, flight, and freeze. Fawning is what happens when the nervous system determines that the safest way through a threat is to appease it, to become agreeable, to make yourself small enough, quiet enough, accommodating enough, so that the danger passes. In a relationship where your authentic voice, your real opinions, your real feelings, your real needs repeatedly led to conflict or punishment or the withdrawal of love, the nervous system learned a very clear lesson. Quiet equals safe. Quiet keeps the peace. Quiet keeps you loved, or at least keeps the version of love you had access to. You did not lose your voice. You protected it by hiding it somewhere so deep that the danger couldn't reach it. And now it's time to go find it. Here is the other thing I want you to understand, because I think it matters deeply for how you approach what comes next. Reclaiming your voice does not mean becoming loud. It does not mean confrontation. It does not mean that you now have to say every true thing to every person regardless of consequence. Reclaiming your voice means something much quieter and more radical than that. It means learning to hear yourself again. It means in a moment when someone asks you what you want for dinner and your automatically response is whatever you like, and you pause. I want you to notice the pause and then ask yourself quietly, gently, without any pressure, what do I actually want? It means when you feel something move in your body, a tightening, a resistance, a reluctance that doesn't match what you're saying out loud, choosing to be curious about that signal rather than overriding it is so important right now. It means in the privacy of your own journal, your own mind, allowing yourself to have opinions, real ones, about things large and small, preferences that belong entirely to you, a life that is yours to define. The voice, it does not come back all at once. It comes back the way the moon returns after the new moon. It slivers like a whisper, then a quiet knowing, then gradually a steadiness, a sureness, a willingness to say what is true, at least to yourself, even when the world hasn't earned that truth. Your voice is not gone. It has been waiting with extraordinary patience for you to make it safe enough to return. Now I want to speak to the part of you that is afraid of her own voice. The part that has been quiet for so long that the idea of speaking feels somehow dangerous, presumptuous, like more than you are entitled to. I know that part. I was that part. I spent years believing that my voice, my real voice, not the managed, careful, approved version, was too much, too needy, too honest, too loud for the room I was in. And I want you to know something about that belief. It was not yours. It was given to you. It was taught. It was installed through repetition and consequence and years of having your authentic expression met with something other than love until it felt so familiar that you stopped noticing it was a belief at all. It felt like a fact, like the truth about who you were. It was never the truth. It was the story that kept you manageable. Your voice, your real, unedited, knowing voice is not too much. It is exactly enough, and it always has been exactly enough. The women whose voices changed the world were not special. They were simply women who, at some point, decided that the cost of their silence was higher than the cost of being heard. Women who looked at what staying quiet had cost them in their bodies, in their health, in their relationships, in the hollow quiet of a life half lived, and decided that the risk of speaking was worth taking. That moment is available to you also. Not all at once, not with a declaration or a confrontation or any kind of performance, just in privacy of your own inner world, a small, quiet turning toward your own truth, a willingness to say, I have something to say, even if it's only to myself, even if only today, even if only this once. That is where it begins. That is where it has always begun. Say the thing, even silently, even in a whisper, even in the pages of a journal that no one else will ever read. Your voice was the first thing the silence tried to take, which means it is also the first thing that returns when the silence finally breaks. And it is breaking right now in you. I can hear it in the fact that you're here. Now, before we move into our meditation, I would like to offer you a somatic practice that is specifically about the body's relationship to the voice. Because the voice is not just a mental or emotional thing. It lives in the body, in the throat, yes, but also in the chest, the belly, the jaw, the shoulders, and all the places that tighten when it was not safe to speak. So find a comfortable position, sitting upright if you can, and I'd like you to take 3 slow breaths to arrive fully, and then we'll begin. Breathing in, and slowly and longer exhaling. Breathing in through your nose, holding, and letting that out through your mouth. And on this last breath, when you release, I'd like you to let out a deep sigh. So breathe in through your nose, hold, just feel your body relax. Now I'd like you to bring your awareness to your jaw and let it unhinge slightly, just a little, not dramatically. Let your back teeth separate. Notice what lives there. The jaw is one of the primary places the body stores unexpressed words. Everything that was held behind your teeth, everything you said to yourself that you couldn't say out loud, everything that became a tight, familiar holding. Let it soften. You don't have to release anything dramatically. Simply invite it to be a little less held than it was a moment ago. And that is enough. Now bring one hand gently to rest at the base of your throat. Feel the warmth of your palm. And take a slow breath in. And as you exhale, let a sound come out. Again, this can be a sigh. It can be a low humming sound. It can be a single note. It doesn't need to be beautiful or purposeful. It just needs to be your voice. Let it vibrate in your throat. Feel the sensation of your own voice moving through your body. Breathing in and letting that sound out. This is what it feels like to let sound out rather than holding it in. Notice if it feels unfamiliar. Does it feel strange or vulnerable? That's natural. It's the nervous system adjusting to something that it learned to be cautious about. So do this 2 or 3 more times. And with each exhale, let a sound come out, whatever sound resonates with you. And with each sound, allow a small permission. And with each permission, a tiny step toward the voice that's been waiting to be heard. Now finally, with your hands still gently on your throat or moved now to your heart, speak one sentence, silently or aloud, whatever feels safer. And I'd like you to say this: I have a voice. It has always been mine. And I am learning to trust it. I have a voice. It has always been mine. And I am learning to trust it. Now notice how that lands and if it brings up any emotion. And if it does, let that emotion flow gently. It's not weakness. It's just your body aligning and regulating your nervous system. And it's just recognition of what's needed at this moment. Now, if you're ready, let's go ahead and begin your guided meditation. And if you'd like to find a comfortable place, whether that's lying down or sitting up, please do so at this time. Let the surface beneath you hold everything. Nothing is required of you in this space except to receive. Take a slow breath in through your nose and hold gently and release through your mouth. Once more, and on this exhale, let your whole body soften and drop deeper and deeper, letting your jaw drop and your shoulders drop. And feel your hands loosen and relax, letting everything begin to release just a little, just for now. You are safe. You are here. And as you continue to come home to yourself, as your voice continues to find its way back to you, this space receives all of it. I want to take a moment to feel the energy of this particular week with you, because the cosmos is holding us in something extraordinary right now. And I want you to feel it in your body, not just understand it in your mind. The sun is in Aries. I want you to feel that. A fire has been lit. Not a destructive fire, but a clarifying one. The kind that burns away what is no longer needed and leaves behind what is essential and true. Aries says, "This is who I am." No apology, no performance, just the essential self. Venus is in Aries too, the planet of love and worth, moving through the sign of authentic selfhood. Feel what it means to have the energy of love and value aligned with the energy of being fully and genuinely yourself. Feel that love, the love that doesn't require your disappearance, and the worth that doesn't depend on your silence. And when the full moon rises in Libra, even now feel it building, that Libra lunation pulling at the tides of your relationships, asking where you have lost the balance of yourself, illuminating the places where the scales tipped so far toward another person that you fell off entirely. Just breathe into all of that. Let it support you. The cosmos is not separate from your healing. It is part of the same intelligence that has been whispering your name all along. Now bring your awareness to your throat, that sacred corridor of expression, and notice what lives there right now. Perhaps tension or a familiar tightness, or, and I want you to be curious rather than alarmed if this is what you find, perhaps a kind of emptiness, a hollow place where sound used to move freely before you learned to be careful with it. Whatever you find, meet it with curiosity, not judgment. As your throat continues to soften and open, as your voice continues to find its way home, whatever is stored there is simply waiting for permission to move. Take one slow breath directly into your throat. Feel your ribcage expand. Feel your collarbones lift slightly. And as you exhale, let out a soft sound. Even just a breath with a little voice in it, even the faintest hum, That is your voice. That is the beginning. Now I want to invite you somewhere. I'd like you to imagine that you are standing in a quiet place, somewhere that feels entirely safe, entirely yours. Maybe it is a room you love, or a place in nature, or somewhere that only exists in your imagination. The light is gentle. The air is warm and comfortable. Nothing here is a threat. It's safe. And in this space, you become aware of something. A presence, just at the edge of the room or the clearing or wherever you are. It's quiet, it's patient, and familiar in a way that is hard to name, because it is a part of you. Not the part that managed and smiled and held everything together. It's not the part that learned to be careful. This is an older part. The part that was here before the silencing began. The part that used to sing in the car and laugh too loudly and say exactly what it thought without checking first whether the room could handle it. She has been waiting, not with any bitterness. She doesn't have bitterness. She has simply been here, keeping your voice safe, holding it for you until you were ready to receive it back. And as you stand in this space, feel the light beginning to shift around you. It is the light of the full moon in Libra, silver and steady. It begins to rise above the horizon of your inner landscape. This moon illuminates balance, it illuminates relationship, and most powerfully, it illuminates the places where you disappeared. Now let that moonlight fall over you. Let it find the places you made yourself smaller. Let it find the words you swallowed, the opinions you hid, the needs you learned to pretend you didn't have. The whole beautiful, complex, interior world that you tucked away so carefully that even you sometimes forgot it was there. The Libra full moon does not ask you to be angry about this. It simply asks you to see it clearly, to let the light of honest recognition fall on what has been hidden, not with shame, but with the particular tenderness of someone who finally understands. The silencing was never your fault. It was your survival. And it is ending now in this light, in this moment, and in you. Now the part of you who held your voice, notice that she's moving toward you now. And as she reaches you, she places something in your hands, something small and warm and pulsing with a gentle light. Your voice. Not someone else's voice. Not the voice that was approved or shaped or edited. Your voice. The one with your specific frequency, your particular knowing, your unmistakable truth. Hold it for a moment. Feel its weight, feel its warmth. This is not a metaphor. Let your body actually feel this. Let your hands warm around it. Let your chest feel what it is to hold something that has always been yours and is finally being returned to you. Now, what if just for these next few minutes, you already trusted it completely? What if the doubt and the second guessing and the automatic checking of the room before you spoke? What if just for now, none of that was necessary? What if your voice was simply safe? What if you were simply safe? Notice what shifts in your body when you let that in, even slightly, even for a moment. Where does something soften? And where does something release? Now bring one hand to your heart. This is your anchor. As your voice continues to return to you, as you continue to trust what you hear when you go quiet and listen, this touch will remind you, I have a voice. It is mine. I am learning to trust it. With your hand on your heart in this warm, open, receptive state, let these words settle into you. As your voice continues to find its way home to you, as you continue to trust what you hear when you go quiet and listen. The full moon in Libra continues to illuminate where you are ready to reclaim your balance. As you continue to learn that speaking your truth is safe, slowly, gently. As Venus in Aries continues to remind you that you deserve love that lets you be fully yourself. You are already home. Let those words land in your throat and in your chest and in the deep, patient place that has been holding your voice all this time. And breathe. Slowly and gently begin to feel the weight of your body returning, the surface beneath you, the room around you. And keep your hand on your heart for one more breath, feeling your heartbeat, feeling your breath, and feeling the voice that is beginning very quietly to move toward the surface. Take one final slow breath in and out. And as you open your eyes slowly and gently, carry this with you. The moonlight is still building. The Libra full moon will rise, and it will illuminate everything you're ready to see. Let it. And your voice, hold on to it. It is yours. It has always been yours. Now, before you return to your day, take one more moment here and gently place your hand on your throat and feel your pulse there, steady, faithful, alive. That pulse has been here your entire life, even through the silence. Even when the voice went underground, even then the body kept its rhythm. Say one true thing to yourself right now, silently, even something small, even something you've never said out loud. Something beautiful about you. That is your voice. Welcome it home. Now you came here today, 3 Sundays in a row, 3 seeds planted, 3 layers of coming home to you. That's not an accident. That is a woman who has decided quietly and firmly that she is worth returning to. Keep going, 1 Sunday at a time, 1 whisper at a time. You are not who you were. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. This is Soul Whispers, and you, beautiful, brave, finding your voice soul, you are already home. If today's episode stirred something in you, if you felt your voice move even slightly, I warmly invite you to subscribe if you're new here so you never miss a Sunday, to share this with a woman you know who has been quiet for too long. And if you feel to go deeper, the link below is an open door. No pressure, just an invitation. And next Sunday, The full moon in Libra will have risen and illuminated everything you're ready to release. So next week we sit with what is revealed and we go somewhere profound. Episode 4 will be Safety is not a place, it is something you build inside. Because here is something I want you to think about this week as you sit with today's episode. You now understand why the quiet felt wrong after you left. You understand a bit about the trauma bond, the intermittent reinforcement, the nervous system reaching for what's familiar, and today you began to reclaim the voice that the eggshells trained into silence. But underneath all of that, underneath the silence and the eggshells and the trauma bond, there's a question that so many women who have lived what you have lived carry quietly inside them, a question they are almost afraid to ask. Will I ever feel truly safe? Not just safe from danger, safe inside your own body, safe in your own company, safe in the stillness that used to feel like threat, safe enough to fully exhale, finally. Well, next Sunday, I'm going to take you into the nervous system, into the science of why your body has been on high alert for years, why fight, flight, freeze, and fawn actually feel like from the inside, and most importantly, how you begin to build safety within yourself, not as a destination you arrive at one day, but as a practice, a daily, gentle, faithful returning to a body that is learning, perhaps for the first time, that it is allowed to be still. Safety is not a place, it is not a person, it is not something that arrives when the danger finally leaves. It is something you build, brick by brick, breath by breath, inside yourself. And next Sunday, we begin to build it together. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and bring someone with you who needs to hear this, because I promise you, there is someone in your life right now who's living in a body that hasn't felt safe in a long time. Until next Sunday, please be gentle with yourself. Trust your voice. And remember, you are already home. Love and hugs. Till next week.